Hi everybody, it's Anne-Marie here, and I'm delighted to offer you a short talk and an introduction to the power of our programming and the power of who we are, and how we can start to look at our own habits and our behaviors and our programs and decide which ones are serving us and which ones we'd rather not have. And I think this is a place of growth and maturity as we get older. Quite often, when we start to recognise things like these programs I was telling you about. So I'm just going to go into a little bit about what that is, how that works in our brain, how we can uncover them, and then how we can absolutely change them into the person we truly want to be and start to create healthy habits and nurturing habits and beliefs that are feeding us and loving us instead of the opposite, because quite often many of us were brought up with the opposite of that. So I discovered this and started to get really curious about this about 20 years ago when I went to a talk. And in those days, I just accepted the way I was. I just believed that I was a shy person. I believed that I wasn't confident. I believed certain things about the world and about life can be tough and you got to watch your back and money doesn't grow on trees, etc., etc. A lot of these things I just picked up and believed were true. So in this particular talk, it was really revealing because it was explaining, about these programs in our brains and that they're not who we truly are and we can change them. And it was absolutely fascinating for me, and a light bulb really went on, and I thought, wow, okay, so there's a possibility that I could change and I can be different. And it started to get me looking at myself and looking at how I behaved and looking at the world as well. And it was a gradual journey, I can assure you, and it wasn't one that changed overnight, but it sparked something in me. I then went on to train in NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming, all about the programs of our brain and how we pick up these beliefs, etc. Also as an integrated hypnotherapist, so that took it to another level, which was incredible. And then years later, I started to get into meditation and spirituality. And now I love bringing science and spirituality together. It's been such a revelation because I believe that when we have the science and the understanding behind what's happening in our body and our mind, and then we can couple that with the bigger picture and who we truly are and coming from a place of our heart, it's really powerful. And so really that's what I'm deeply passionate about in my life, and it's been my own journey, and inevitably that's rippled out into my life and into the work that I do and working with people one-to-ones in groups and retreats, etc. Those people who are ready to change and those people who want to live the best life they can and be free and be vital and be happy and healthy and abundant and joyous and innocent, and it's just how we're meant to be. And so I want to just run through with you a little bit about how we gather these programs and what happens in the brain. I'm not going to go into some great big spiel or science because I don't have all of that knowledge, but I have enough awareness to be able to explain it in a very simple way, because for me, I like things really simple. So when we came into the world as this beautiful bouncing baby, we were literally a new page, a blank canvas, full of potential and possibility, as every single one of us came into this world. And from the second we arrived in this world, or even before actually, even in the womb, we were picking up things. But when we came into the world, we immediately were starting to be shaped by our environment, by the people in our environment, by our society, etc. Not to blame anybody, that's certainly not what I am intending to do, but to help us understand where we pick these things up. And up until the age of about 7-ish, give or take a year, we're pretty much, as I say, the sponge. They say children are a sponge, don't they? And they just absorb everything, and they do. which is great. But also we have to watch the other side of that, which is things that maybe aren't as healthy or as nurturing for our soul and our spirit and for that beautiful child. So the ego starts to kick in about the age of 7, and it starts to recognize there's a you and there's a me. And then the me is a girl, and she's got blue eyes, and she wears glasses, and she's quiet, and she's shy, etc., etc., etc. And then it gets reinforced and reinforced, you know. Mine was definitely shy. And I remember, you know, when I was out with my mum, and I would just stand there, I wouldn't say anything, and she would say, oh, she's very shy, she's very shy. And of course I would just kept being fed into my subconscious brain, and of course that's who I became, a very shy person, amongst other things. And of course, you know, no blame, as I say, it's just what happens. And we make this belief about ourselves, all these different ones, and I'm sure you've got many, and maybe you're already aware of some of them. But what I also know that there are many that we are not aware of, and we have these blind spots, and they tend to be the deep rooted ones that we just keep acting out and playing out in our lives. And I'm so passionate about helping people to uncover them, so we can bring them to the surface and then start to reprogram and then replace it with the new program, the new person that you truly want to be and deserve to be. So how does it happen? So just like when we were a child, I think every one of us all learnt to tie our shoelaces. I actually remember at times, you know, learning and feeling so frustrated because I couldn't quite get it right. But obviously I did. Eventually I kept going, didn't I? And as I'm sure you did. The same when I was learning to ride a bike. It seemed to take me forever and I just couldn't get it. But I kept going and I kept going. And then I did it, and I had the freedom to ride a bike. And everything was in me to be able to remember how to do that every time I got back on a bike. And the same when I get my shoes on my feet, I don't have to think about that anymore. I just do it. It's a hardwired belief. It's a hardwired program that I can do it. And I can. And that served me really well. And we have many of those programs that are really supporting us and are healthy that we've picked up along the way. But equally, and these are the ones really that is important to start to uncover, is the ones that keep us small, keep us in these limited behaviours. And for example, you know, let me give you the example of being shy. I truly believe that was who I was. And doing something just like this, or standing up in public and speaking, would have been my utter worst nightmare. I would not have done it for love nor money, and I mean that truly. You could have given me a bucket load of money and I would not for a second have wanted to do it. But life changed little by little by little. And that started about 20 years ago, I would say, roughly, when I went to an evening class by this amazing guy called Ian MacDonald, who was into lots of different things. But he started to talk about these programs in our brains and how they shape us and how we behave in certain ways. And that actually they're just a learned habit. And if we can learn that habit, we can also change it. And then we can learn a habit that is more supportive. And it was a real revelation for me, I have to say. I sat there thinking, wow, okay, so I think this is who I am. And I think that this behaviour is just the way it's going to be. And I thought, oh my goodness, okay, so I can change. I didn't know how, I can assure you, to start with. That seems, you know, out of my remit at the time. But it sparked something in me. It planted a seed. And I became really hungry to learn more and to understand more. And so I subsequently went on and trained as a holistic therapist, an NLP practitioner, which is neuro-linguistic programming, all about the programs of our brains and our beliefs, etc. I also went on to be an integrated hypnotherapist. And then I went into the spiritual life of meditation and opening up to all that kind of world as well. And so now I have a great balance and understanding of connecting spirituality and science. And for me, it works really, really well. And I think it's so helpful to understand what is going on within us from the science perspective, or from neuroscience and quantum physics. I'm not a qualified expert by any means, but I have certainly dived into that and actually seen how, when we look at both of those sides of us, we can, without any shadow of a doubt, change our lives. And I mean, you can change everything or any habit. And the thing is, friends, a lot of these habits are they are subconscious. We're not aware that they're there. We act out and behave in a certain way, as I say, and we just think that's normal. Like, I just thought being shy was it. That was my label, and I'd be that for the rest of my life. But I've really found that if we want to change, or we're dissatisfied in some way, we just think, gosh, I really don't like feeling this feeling of anxiety or lack or inferiority or fear. It just isn't a great way to live. I wish I could change. I just wish I could change. Then we've got somewhere to go if you're willing. And I've also, many people say, well, this is just how I am. And I'm going to say, no, it isn't. It doesn't have to be. It is how you are now, but it's not the truth of who you are. And that's why I'm just so, so passionate, because I know that people have immense potential, and most of us just scratch the surface. And I want to say, let's change that. Why do we have to be mediocre? Why do we have to just think that this is the way it is? So I hope that you are sparked in some way to think, well, okay, yeah, come on then, how do I do that? So I want to just go back to the basics, really, of what goes on in the brain. So when we repeat a habit, when we repeat an action, it becomes a habit. So, for example, when you were a child and you learnt to tie your shoelaces, I don't know about you, but I actually remember the frustration of trying to get it right and to get it just for a while. Obviously, I couldn't do it. But eventually, I did. I persevered. I kept going, and I learnt to tie my shoelaces. The same with riding a bike. It seemed to take me forever to get my balance and to do it, but I was determined. And eventually something clicked. It happened, and there I was. And every time I get on a bike now, I can ride it. It's a hardwired program, and it serves me well. And we have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these programs, some of them that serve us really, really well, that we need. Others that don't serve us very well at all. So when we continue to practice something, or there's a repetition, for example, with me being shy, I just believed that was true because it had been told to me again and again. So in my brain, these neuroconnections that we have that spark off and they ping, there's a moment when they connect, these synapses come together and they create a program. And they become hardwired the more we repeat them. So like with my shoelaces and learning to ride a bike, I kept going. I visioned other people on bikes. So there was a memory there was a vision there that it was possible. The same with tying my shoelaces. I saw other people could do it. So that would get me, really knowing it was possible, and it was. And then I had a hardwired program. I have that in my brain right now for tying my shoelaces and for riding my bike. It's there. It's a hardwired program. But equally, we gather these other programs which are just not serving us. So basically, the law, I'm just looking at my notes here, the law of repetition, really, this is what gets them going, is a thought, an action, a feeling, and a skill. And we repeat them over and over and over again, and it becomes easy, automatic, second nature, routine, familiar, effortless, implicit, etc. That's how we start to do it. And so it's these nerve cells that wire together in our brain, okay? But equally, nerve cells that no longer wire together, no longer fire together. And this is what I'm interested in now, when we can undo some of these old programs that aren't serving us. They're fired together, for example, my shyness or my, I don't know, fear of something, a phobia. You know, many people have phobias and fears and anxiety, and they think that's the way life is. They just think, well, that's how I am. Oh no, you learnt that one, guys. You didn't come in with it. You did not come in with it. And you don't have to go out with it, right? You can change it. You really, really, really can. So we have to start to undo these hardwired programs of the things that no longer serve us. But first of all, friends, we have to actually find out what that is and be willing to change it. And as we start to bring that to an awareness, then we can start to reprogram our brains into a new direction. And so to start with, we might think, well, okay, I didn't want to be shy. So what's the opposite of shy? So confident, being able to walk in a room and stand, you know, secure in yourself, to be able to speak out clearly, to vocalize, to be confident, to be at ease. And I would see other people like that and I would think, wow, aren't they lucky? Gosh, I wish I could be like that. But I didn't believe I could. But little by little, I'd also put a message, if you like, out there in the world that, yeah, part of me would like to change, but there was part of me that just didn't think I could, to be honest. But something heard me, the universe, this infinite intelligence that's beating my heart and spinning this planet heard me. And little by little, different things came along, different situations over years. It took years, trust me. But I began to loosen this program. It began to become weaker and weaker and weaker. And then I started to think, wow, I could be this confident person. I could stand up on a stage and speak. Oh, really? But I didn't know how. But I kept, practicing and getting things wrong to start with, because it feels uncomfortable when we change. It really does. And it can feel really weird because we're so used to a certain way of doing things, yeah? But again, with this commitment and willingness, things will change. So we have these subconscious beliefs, and a great way to describe it is like an iceberg. So at the tip of the iceberg, which you see above the water, it's a bit like our conscious and our subconscious. So above the water is I think it's about 10 to 15%, something like that you can see is our logical thinking brain. And under the surface of the water, the biggest part, that 80-90% of the iceberg that we do not see, is our subconscious behaviors. And this is the bit that we can start to access through different ways of, the hypnosis, for example, the NLP programming that I use, parts of meditation, using the law of attraction. So knowing, well, I don't want this, but I do want this. So if I keep focusing on this particular thing, it keeps becoming stronger and stronger and stays the same. I'm feeding it. If I want something new, I have to take my energy off this old program. And I have to start to then look at its opposite, or what is it I wish to create? And then if I start to give that energy and I start to visualize that, or imagine how I would be, or look at other people and think, wow, that's how people like that are. Oh my goodness. I start to rewire, and I plant a seed of possibility. And of course, the more I focus on that, the more I embody that, it begins to grow and become bigger and bigger and bigger. And the less I look at the old program and the old behavior, that has to diminish little by little by little by little, because I'm not giving it energy. And eventually, pow, I get a new neuro program in my brain. I create a new habit, a new behavior. And it's a bit uncomfortable to start with. It's like when we get on that bike and, I've almost done it. We've got to keep practicing it and keep doing it. And then it's like, wow, I've done it. I can do it. And so that is the theory, if you like, behind what goes on when we pick up these behaviours and these habits, etc. And of course, one of the things that can keep us stuck is a belief. And a belief is something you just keep thinking. Okay, so if we keep thinking again and again and again that life's tough, money doesn't grow on trees, there's so much to fear out there, then guess what? With the law of attraction, you're going to create it, because like attracts like. So if you're constantly thinking you've got to watch your back, life's tough out there, there are really unkind people out there, you will keep bringing those scenarios and those situations into your life, friends. And it's not personal. There isn't the big guy up there going, well, you were bad when you were 2 and I'm going to punish you. None of that at all is going on, I can assure you. It's just a repeated program, and the energy keeps attracting more of the same. So it kind of makes sense to think, well, do I want to keep that active? Do I want to keep bringing that into my life? And quite often we do get to a point where we just think, I can't do this. I don't want to live like this anymore. And then we can make a breakthrough. But quite often, a lot of these programs, as I said, under the surface are literally blind spots. And we can't see them on our own sometimes. And that's when it's so helpful to have somebody to help you achieve what it is you want to achieve, even though you don't know how. I mean, there's been many times I've just thought, well, yeah, I'd like X, Y, and Z, but I haven't got a clue how to do that. I'd see other people that were doing it. And to start with, that kind of was inspiring, but it was also, I used to feel a bit frustrated and a bit inferior, and just think, well, I just can't do this. I just don't know how. But I thought, well, if they can do it, surely I can. I have the potential as well. So it's about building on this, and just knowing that if other people can do it, there's no reason why you can't. Okay? And we've got to be open. We've got to start to be prepared to drop these old labels and these old personas and open up to who we truly can be. So it's about starting to think a little bit bigger and a bit out of the box. So it's like we are literally confined in a box when we're in these old behaviours. When I was that shy person, my goodness, that box was so limiting. It really, really was. And eventually, I sort of, looked above the parapet and thought, oh, is there a way out? I don't know how, so I'd be back in my box. But I've done it. And I continue to do it because it feels good. And I can help other people to achieve that too, if they want that. And I think we can only learn by our own experiences, can't we? And having changed myself and seen the possibility and seeing other people who can change, I think, well, what a gift to be able to offer other people, to be able to live the best life they can, and to not live in fear or feel inferior or to worry or to have these habits that don't serve us. And quite often these habits, they become an addiction. They start off as something, with smoking or drinking as a social thing, or to look good, when we're younger. But then we start to get addicted to it. And then we believe we can't change. We think, well, this is how I am. This is controlling me. And I know it really does feel like that. But again, if we want to change, we can. And we have to just open up to that. And part of that is starting to visualize or imagine or feel or even hear, what would that person be like? How would that person walk? How would they interact with other people as that new person? So now I'm a person who's much more confident. And I used to watch other people and I think, wow, gosh, look at them. They just walk in a certain way and they hold themselves in a certain way. And it's not an ego thing, this, guys. It's just being who we're meant to be. And that's another program. There's such a deep-rooted in our society that being the best version of ourselves is arrogant. And when you're doing it from your heart, it isn't arrogance. it's just natural. It's who you're meant to be. So please drop those judgments of yourself and other people. We deserve to be the best version of ourselves. We really, really do. And we're not here to suffer. We're not here to be small. This is not what God or the universe or this vast, whatever name you want to call it, does not want that for you, and is constantly helping you if you are willing to open up to it. But we have to be the one that is willing to make the change. So that's just kind of a very, very brief summary of some of these programs and habits that we've picked up. And I hope that you might feel just a little bit inspired to think, well, yeah, maybe I could change. Or maybe that person, when they behave in that way, gosh, I can look at them slightly differently now and not get so wound up, because actually they were just doing the best they could. And when we start to get to that place, my goodness, it really becomes, I call it freedom, because we're less detached, we're less enmeshed in these old ways, and we start to create heaven on earth. But it starts with you. You are the one that is the change. Now, Gandhi said, we are the change we wish to see in the world. And I truly believe that. And that's why I've changed. I've changed for me, first and foremost, because I feel better, then I'm a better person to be around. But that ripple effect, when we throw the pebble in, it's fast and it filters out. And to me, that's what I want to keep practicing and helping and encouraging people to do too. And so you imagine that ripple going out when we're coming from a place of love and from joy and from, abundance and ease and wellness and well-being, and etc., etc. So that is the message that I'm offering you, and to believe in yourself that you can be whatever you want to be. You truly, truly, truly can. And it takes time, yeah. It does take time, I'm not going to deny that. But if you really want it, oh boy, you can do it. So there we go. So I hope that was a little taster for you. If you'd like to know more, please do go to my website, which is annemariemarchant.co.uk. And, if you want to talk to me about anything or just find out a bit more, I'd be delighted to talk to you. So be the best version of yourself and know that you can change those habits and those beliefs. Absolutely. So thank you so much, and I wish you well. Bye for now.